Hey friends, it's your pal Erica, and today I'm going to give you part 2 of the dramatic interpretation of Noble Without a Soul. This is going to be audio only, so just kind of think of it as a podcast, but this is the playthrough of a game that I came up with my good friend Mone Jimenez, and thank you for stopping by. Let me know what you think.
Ruthie, the fates have decided we're off to the frozen tundra.
Great, I groaned sarcastically. We'd been walking for hours. It was a Herculean effort to keep from slipping on the black ice. As if losing my soul wasn't enough, I'm having trouble keeping up with a man as old as the hills. I saw a crippled vagrant sleeping and decided to swipe his crutches. Barnabas the Elder used his monk influence to guilt me into leaving the beggar one of my cufflinks to pawn. Satisfied that I'd done the right thing, we continued our trek toward the tundra. Snow blanketed the ground as we walked by a church. I asked the monk if he was going for food or supplies, but he responded,
"You're not welcome in any church, dear boy. That lantern stuffed in your cloak is an abomination. Besides, need to keep moving before we freeze to death."
The old man decided to stop for the night, claiming that those with souls required at least 8 hours of rest. I feigned amusement at his jibe, but was curious how long we'd travel before reaching the tundra. I told the monk that my armpits needed a break from the crutches. I wanted him to feel as though we got on as travel companions. But in truth, I'm tired of Barnabas the Elder's judgment. Something about him unnerved me. I felt he wasn't as pious as he wanted me to believe. And as someone who engages in questionable activities, it enables me to recognize a liar. And because I feel he's deceiving me, I have no qualms about swiping his pockets for change and taking his map. When the soul-stealing business ends, I must visit the local pawnshop owner to retrieve my cufflinks. I'll say something about the vagrant robbing me and demand the authorities restore my property. This plan's success hinges upon my parting ways with Barnabas. Until my next entry. Love, Ruthie. Dear Diary, I left Barnabas shortly before sunrise, still seething from having to give a peasant my family heirloom. Sure, I was willing to use it as payment for gambling, but I would have stabbed the stranger with my stew spoon to keep him from absconding with my inheritance. The old man had some miracle salve in his pockets, which soothed my armpits and healed my legs. I'm not sure where I left the crutches, which is dumb now that I think about it. I should have used them for firewood. After several blissfully quiet hours of walking, I saw the most magnificent spectacle. It was so outrageous, I don't know if I'd believe it if someone told me. I stopped walking when I noticed a wrecked pirate ship jutting from a frozen lake. I suspected there'd be gold on the ship, so I walked up the gangplank and immediately fell through a massive hole on deck. Shortly after landing below deck, I noticed a cannonball, the likely culprit. The crash landing was worth it because I found a treasure chest. However, there was a slight setback. When I tried to open it, I summoned the crew's ghosts.
"Halt! Who goes there?"
asked the captain. I assumed he was the captain because he had an air of authority.
"I don't care who you are. You're here to steal my gold, aren't you?"
There was no point in lying to the man, ghost. I told him that I wasn't going to take the entire chest. I was going to take what I needed and leave the rest. I noticed a sword on the floor. It must have been from some skirmish years ago. I grabbed the sword and told the captain to move out of the way.
"Why should I listen to you?"
"This is an iron sword, and it will send you to a plane you never knew existed." I lunged towards him. Everyone knew that iron repelled ghosts. Why wasn't he afraid? The captain spat.
"Seems to me you're looking for a fight."
He grunted and revealed his own sword. "Where'd you get that?" I asked.
"Don't worry about that. You need to worry about where it's going."
Ruthie is encountering an obstacle, which means that a 2-coin toss determines his fate. 2 coins are flipped, which resulted in 1 head and 1 tail, meaning that Ruthie accomplishes his objective, but loses a limb.
The captain thrust his sword towards my midsection. I dove to the side, forcing him to change positions. Our swords clanged against each and sparks flew. One of the sparks ignited a barrel of gunpowder. "What are you?" I asked. I needed to know how he could wield an iron sword as a ghost.
"You have 3 minutes before this ship is blown to matchsticks, and you're concerned about what I am? I'd be more concerned if I weren't fish food if I were you."
We continued fighting, and with a stroke of luck, I knocked the captain against the bulkhead, giving me enough time to grab the chest. I felt a hot butter knife slice through my sword-carrying arm. Blood sprayed from the wound like a geyser. The pirate captain taunted me, but I carried the chest off the ship before it exploded. The shockwaves knocked me several kilometers down the bank. I ignored the ringing in my ears and used a piece of this tattered shirt to staunch the bleeding. I surveyed my surroundings. The explosion made a drastic impact on the lake. Giant pieces of ice replaced the massive sheet that had occupied the space. I'd planned to walk across the frozen lake, but hadn't anticipated the blast that would cause me to hop from chunk to chunk. I was cursing my fate when I heard a familiar voice.
Ruthie, I'm assuming you're the one who stole my map. If you would have waited, we could have gone through Angel's Pass and avoided that wretched pirate ship. But your impatience got the better of you. And now you're down a limb. I hope you've learned your lesson.
I don't know what lesson good old Barnabas wanted me to glean from my situation. I'd lost an arm but had gained a pirate's treasure. Surely I can buy a new arm. Maybe I'll get a hook for a hand like that pirate in that kid's book. However, Barnabas the Elder's arrival in time to lecture me has taken some of the joy from my well-earned exploit. "Fine, old man," I huffed. I crumpled his map and threw it at his feet. "Please take your map and be on your way." Barnabas held up a hand, summoning the balled-up chart to its home.
We need to go east. I see trees in the distance.
I didn't want to go with the monk, but I didn't know how to truly get rid of the guy. He wants to go east, great. What's in this for him? I shall find out, my dearest diary. Love, Ruthie.
Ruthie must continue his hinterland exploration. The Two of Pentacles was drawn, keeping him in the frozen tundra.
Dearest diary, I juggled my fate as I ran, as best as possible, with my treasure chest on the icy terrain. The sheet of ice split with each step I pounded on the surface. At first I was trying to ditch old Barnabas the Elder. If there's one good thing about being unable to sleep, I can evade the creepy monk while he grabs a few winks. Unfortunately, the cracks in the ice alarmed a giant woolly mammoth. I made eye contact with the beast, a big mistake. He reared back and bellowed a loud, screeching roar. When his front feet landed back on the ice, the surface broke into several floating pieces. He managed to keep me on his drift ice. He had the putrid odor of wet fur and musk. I did my best to keep from vomiting because his scent triggered my gag reflex. He scraped his front foot, posturing himself for a fight. This sucks because I don't have the strength to defend myself. I'll have to dig into my reserve to find the energy to evade this thing, and an arm to carry a treasure chest is daunting. So I dropped it and stuffed coins and jewels in my pockets. I was haunted by Barnabas's voice of morality. It's almost as if his voice got into my head and lectured me on taking things that don't belong to me. Honestly, dear diary, he's like that bloody cricket in Pinocchio. Well, it's good I ignored that stupid voice of integrity. I needed that jeweled dagger to stab into the beast's heart. He charged me.
Ruthie is encountering an obstacle which calls for a coin toss to determine his fate. The result of this 2-coin flip is 2 heads. He trembles, tucks tail, and barely escape with his life.
The mammoth was more massive than my brain could fathom. I ran directly at the beast and slid under its enormous body. I lost a few necklaces and briefly thought about returning, but seeing the beast turn and charge changed my mind. I leaped a meter-wide chasm onto another patch of ice, putting a safe distance between us. I oriented myself, finding a line of trees off on the horizon. So, I headed in that direction. Any place was better than this frozen hell.
My friends, it is time for Ruthie to continue his exploring with another card draw. He's picked 8 of Wands reversed, which places him in the craggy highlands. Ruthie will have to deal with ashes and rubble of an abandoned tower, murky lochs, kelpies, rugged landscape, enchanted cairns, wild herbs, and rusted weapons.
After several hours of wandering, I'm confident I entered the craggy highlands. I vaguely remember the topography from my brief possession of Barnabas's precious map, and I was armed with the sneaking suspicion that the hooded stranger's tower was at least a day's journey. Thank the heavens. I'm ready for my stolen soul disaster to be over, but I still had to explore this area to find that elusive hooded stranger. My guess is that he's in the mountains. Of course, the gods would add the arduous task of crossing a murky loch. I see a boat moored to a rickety pier. I'll need to borrow it if I'm going to make it across. Obviously, swimming is out of the question. I'd have to figure out how to row with one arm. As I was retrieving the anchor, I heard,
You'll catch your death if you go in those waters alone, Ruthie.
Damn it. The blasted monk found me again. How did he know to come to this spot? What kind of sorcery did he use to find me? And can he use it to help? I should stop resisting his help. I needed to accept his assistance, but I had to know one thing first. Why are you so hell-bent on facing the stranger with me? I finally asked him. This wasn't his fight, and I'd made it clear that I was trying to do this alone, yet Barnabas, the trusty old elder, kept showing up.
I'm determined that the hooded hooligan stops soul-stealing for good.
I never wanted your help. You volunteered your services when all I did ask for was directions.
You mightn't have asked, but you need my help.
The monk said as if he issued me a warning. Why? I figure the stranger is something otherworldly. I plan on sending him back to the region of hell from which he came. Don't know how I'll be rid of him. But I know this will get messy. I'd be obliged if you'd be on your way, I replied, not batting an eyelash.
You haven't slept for days. You'll be delirious soon. The 2-week journey across Loch Equilius will push you to the brink of madness. Trust me, dear boy, the trek is challenging for someone familiar with the craggy highlands. You don't have much of your rational thought remaining. Sleep madness will sink in, and you need your wits to battle the hooded one.
Damn. The monk had expertly argued his point. I acquiesced, but wanted to know his stake in my ordeal. What's in this for you? The monk's answer shocked me.
It's as simple as and basic as wanting to inflict the same harm to him as he'd done to me.
He produced a pouch out of thin air. It was as if he unzipped the space before me and retrieved the sack. He opened it, pinched a speck of dust, sniffed it, and threw it above his head. He was consumed by a cloud of red smoke. Then, the unthinkable happened. When I'd met Barnabas, the elder, he embodied the term elder. But now a muscular man decades younger than my companion stood before me. I was gobsmacked. We'd passed a church along the way, and you made no attempt to say prayers. I'd been wondering who you really were this whole time. So, what kind of wizard are you? Barnabas flashed a wan smile.
I'm the kind of wizard that needs to stop his old pupil from destroying humanity. The hooded man stole my grimoire and my dark magic scrolls. He performed an ancient rite in the hopes of obtaining immortality, but he was never adept with rune translations, so he was missing a few key ingredients. The only way for him to go on in this plane is by consuming souls.
Wait, he wants my soul for consumption? I wondered if my essence was in the hooded stranger's gullet.
Yes, he wants to eat your soul, and he won't stop with you either. He took my precious son's soul.
The wizard explained.
And he's not been right with him for ages.
What's wrong with your son? I asked.
He's housed in an asylum. He was stricken with sleep madness. He occasionally has lucid moments, but all that's left is a shell of a boy I used to know.
Whoa, I had no idea, I replied.
No, you didn't. Now you understand why the hooded stranger must be destroyed. Let me be the one to row the boat.
We rowed in silence through a dense fog. Our visibility was limited, and for once I appreciated that Barnabas, the wizard, was present. Thank you for rowing. It would have taken me ages to get across. Barnabas laughed.
You wouldn't have made it across.
I lowered my head, clinging to the treasure chest. I was too embarrassed to admit that he was correct.
There are dangers in the depths below, creatures with insatiable hunger, and these beasts.
A high-pitched screech interrupted Barnabas's lecture. His mouth dropped. I turned around to see what had pulled the words from his tongue, and then I saw them, a pair of glowing red eyes. The creature bumped our boat, sending me into the murky abyss. I begrudgingly jettisoned the remaining gold from the chest to keep from slowly sinking to the bottom. Then I began swimming to the surface. I couldn't distinguish the surface from the space in front of me. I couldn't even see my hand. The water was as thick as pea soup. A pair of red orbs pierced the darkness and came at a pace that made me less comfortable. The closer it got, the more I could see by its silhouette that I was being hunted by a kelpie. Dearest diary, it's incredibly challenging to swim with one arm. But the fear of dying without a soul caused me to pull from a place I didn't know existed in me. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to collect my thoughts. I remembered from my classics tutor that to defeat a kelpie, one must grab it by its bridle.
Ruthie is encountering an obstacle which, as you know, calls for a 2-coin flip. This coin toss resulted in 2 tails, which means Ruthie achieves his objective with staggering skillfulness.
Fortunately, or maybe with the help of a wizard, my single hand gripped its bridle. I yanked it off and kicked my way to the surface. Imagine my relief once I felt the sweet kiss of the night's cool air. Barnabas was beside himself with delight.
Well done, Ruthie. I was hoping you weren't a dead man.
Yeah, well, the gods must have smiled at me. I thought I was a dead man too.
I see you've rid yourself of the pirate's treasures.
Barnabas observed as he lifted me into the boat. I didn't want to, but yes. Barnabas exhaled a sigh of relief.
The pirate stole from King John of the Highlands. He sent a royal fleet to retrieve his treasure, but the captain and his crew were too powerful. The king used his royal sorceress to curse the treasure to save what was left of his navy. Calamity and death fall to anyone who possesses it, and once they're dead, wake up as whites for eternity. So it's good that you no longer have that treasure.
I didn't have a response to his profound explanation. Without another word, Barnabas snapped his fingers. Within moments, the boat was propelled to the other side of the loch. I noticed a trail of ashes leading to a crumbling ruin. This is it? I laughed. All of this fighting, wandering, and losing of limbs to find my soul's captor in a rickety tower.
Dear boy, why are you laughing?
It's just so anticlimactic. I was expecting more.
Must I remind you, Ruthie, that our foe doesn't care about money? What did you expect, opulence?
His laughter was interrupted by footsteps.
Who dares enter my domain?
I recognized that spine-tingling voice within an instant. It belonged to the hooded stranger from the tavern. Don't you remember us? I'm Rutherford Montague III, and my traveling companion is...
Folks in the village call me Barnabas the Elder, but you already knew that, didn't you, Marcus?
You shouldn't be here, Father. I warned you once to stay away.
I've come to save what's mine. You're of my blood, and it's against all the laws of nature that I leave you out here to perish. You're sick, Marcus. Let me help you.
Whoa! The stranger is your son? I ran the gamut of emotions but landed on betrayed. This man, who insisted that I trusted him, lied to me.
Yes. That husk of a body is what's left of my precious Marcus. I know he's down there. I just need to dispatch the creature that holds him hostage. And then, I can return the souls he's collected to their owners.
Do you know of a spell or a ritual that could bring your son back? I asked, genuinely curious about Barnabas's reply.
Yes, Ruthie. I know of a way to return Marcus to human form, but I'm afraid I don't have any dragon's hearts on me now.
I nervously stroked the Kelpie's bridle, remembering it had magical powers. This isn't a dragon's heart, but I've heard that in the right hands, it can work wonders. Barnabas's face lit up.
Ruthie, dear boy, you're a genius. Throw that bridle around Marcus and then you can control him.
Fine, I reluctantly agreed. Dearest diary, I didn't have using a Kelpie's bridle to get control of a soul eater on my list of things to do, but I was ready to end this.
Ruthie has come face to face with Marcus the hooded stranger, so he must do a card draw to determine how he will retrieve his soul. A 7 of pentacles or coins means that his methods must be grounded, stable, a reflection of the situation, earth-based.
I'm growing more impatient. I'm the one facing real danger while Barnabas barks orders from afar. This was his son. Shouldn't he have been the one to throw the Kelpie's bridle? Or would I have taken control of Barnabas if I had tossed the bridle to him? That is a secret wish I will only share with you, my dear diary. I wasn't sure what kind of son would want to steal from his father to gain immortality. It was someone who wasn't on the up and up. At any rate, I'll try to gain control of Marcus. I grasped the bridle in my hand and sprinted towards Marcus.
The success or failure of Ruthie's soul retrieval method is determined by a single coin toss. He landed on tails, which means his approach doesn't work, and he's forced to wander the earth with his lantern.
I rushed towards him, but he anticipated my steps and tripped me. The bridle flung out of my hand. I struggled in vain to snatch it before it hit the ground, but to my horror, Marcus caught it with his gnarled hand.
Oof. I know how much you needed to use this, but I've found a better use.
Marcus sneered as he placed the bridle on his father. I blinked, trying to convince the gods to change the outcome. But no sooner had I realized this was an unfortunate turn of events than I saw Barnabas charging after me. I was forced to wander the earth without my soul.
Thank you so much for staying until the end. Hope to see you in the next video.